Welcome to the Atomic Impact Podcast. I'm your host, Jason Osborn. And on this podcast, we interview successful business owners for them to share atomic, impactful lessons that they've learned throughout the course of their business and share them with us so we can all learn together. As always, this show is sponsored by the LinkedIn Reverse Podcast Method, a new way that established businesses are creating a reliable acquisition channel of conversations with their ideal prospects. We use this method to book 26 qualified leads and sales calls in 10 days without any ad spend, outreach, endless social media posting, or any of those old, ineffective traditional marketing methods that everybody hates. To find out more, direct message me on LinkedIn and have a chat. The link to that will be in the show notes below. But on today's show, our special guest is Mike Elliot. He's the owner of Withwards Business Leadership, where he provides executive coaching and strategic consulting. So, Mike, thanks so much for being on the show today. And I want to start by asking you a question that I always love starting off with, which is this. If you were somehow able to go back in time to when you started your first business, but knowing what you know now, what would you do differently in the first 12 months?
That's a great question. And thanks, Jason. Thanks for having me on here. A real pleasure to be here. And so I guess I'm relatively new to this game. So I've only just been running my own business really properly for just over 3 years' time. So the first 12 months is quite recent. I think the big thing that I would be a bit braver about would be saying no to people. I'm sure you've heard that a lot of time. I think when you first start a business, the temptation is to say yes to every piece of revenue, every client, everything that sort of turns up on your doorstep. And when I look back on it, I think some of those things weren't worth the hassle. They weren't worth it, but I don't think there has been any sort of significant really reputational damage. But there could have been when you get in with the wrong, the people who aren't your crowd, not your tribe sort of type mentality. So I think that would be the big thing, would be to, and I think it's a confidence thing. When you first start out, I think there's a natural fear that says, I don't know if anyone's going to buy me, and so when someone says they were, like, yeah, great, okay, fantastic, and actually kind of go, just take a pause, go, hang on, is this actually the right thing, or can I actually be brave enough to be a bit more selective as to who I'm selling to, really.
Yeah. It's you are right. It is a common thing that people say, but I also find it really interesting that it is a common thing that people say because it's such a. I think it's one of those things that no matter how much you hear before you start, you don't really understand it until you get in it, because the experiential knowledge of taking on a wrong client impacts you differently than going, oh yeah, theoretically, okay, I know I need to say no to people, which is always really interesting. So, well, as you've grown your business over the last 3 years and obviously learn a little bit more about what to say no to, what are some of the big things you've done that has helped you get to where you are right now?
Um, I think one of the things that I feel I've worked quite well around is taking my network, the existing network that I had even before I had this business, and continuing to use that. So like quite a bit of my business has come by referral, and then I think then really investing in those relationships once they start. So so a lot of my clients have been quite long-standing clients, which has meant that I haven't had so much of the sort of traditional consulting feast and famine that people talk about. So that's been really beneficial, and that's meant that again it kind of gives you some of the confidence to go in and do other things. So you're like, okay, I know I've got those 4 clients who are kind of there month in, month out, and then you can kind of go, okay, right, now if I'm going to go and reach for something new, I can go and really kind of pinpoint that, sort of classic profile or whatever you want to call it, and go, hang on, or even just go, hey, I'm a little bit less kind of relentlessly commercially focused. So I'd almost go like, oh, that business or that person, I really like to go work with them. So you sort of go, actually, how can I engineer an introduction or a conversation or something? And sometimes that's been business, but sometimes that's been something else. You go, hang on, I know I've got a bit of space in my diary, so I can go, I can really kind of, but do something that's going to be a tick in the box for me.
Yeah.
So whether that's a business thing or a different area of interest.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things that I hear a lot of people talk about is the networking side of stuff. As you've obviously kept in touch with the networking piece and people you've known before you entered into the business. What are some things that you've done that's really helped you with the networking once you've kind of not not necessarily exhausted, because you said you're still kind of working with those, but obviously those are finite, they run out. So what are some tips to people that are looking like, say, Mike, how do I network? How do I grow?
Um, I mean, I don't think it's necessarily an area of like amazing strength for me. So, but an example I give is I worked with a business recently that's gone through a sale process. So we've sort of successfully sold that business on. Through that, there was a corporate finance advisor. I got on well with the corporate finance advisor, and so as that's starting to draw to a close, you start put a coffee in the diary with that the CF advisor and go, hey, let's keep in touch. Let's make sure that what else is going on. What have you got on your radar? And not to be transactional about it, but make sure you're giving something. So
Yeah.
the nature of what I do is I work with a lot of founders. A number of them are working towards exits at some point. Sometimes they're near horizon, sometimes it's much further away. But from his perspective, I'm sure he's thinking, oh, Mike could be a good person to know, because at some point a founder's going to sit down with him and say, I think it's time to sell. How do I do this? I'm say, well, you probably
Yeah.
don't need corporate finance. So
Yeah.
he should want to be my friend at that level, and even in a quite transactional way. I want to be his friend because he might have something that works the other way around. But actually, we do genuinely get on. Like, this isn't so.
Yeah.
It's not like a sort of completely transactional process. It's quite a relational thing. But you know that that could come to fruition. But also, but I think because it's not transactional, we're being willing to play the long game.
Yeah.
Just because that doesn't pay out in 6 months, it might be 2 years, it might be 3 years down the line when if I
Yeah.
keep that going, and then you just so it's just I think it's just seeing those opportunities and working out that first mindset being, how can I help you? Because generally speaking, if we put ourselves out and keep going and helping other people, they're going to be positively minded towards us. And so when something comes up, they're like, oh, how can I pay that back? Or
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. No, I love that. Love that. It's just always be looking at for those opportunities, which is definitely true. Well, one of the things I love to talk about are the problems we face in business, because we all deal with them. Um, and it can feel a little bit isolating, or that we're the only ones that are going through a particular problem, which obviously isn't true, but it can feel that way oftentimes. And so what I'd like to ask is this: what's the number one biggest challenge that you face so far in your business? And what's the lesson that you've learned from that?
I think this one's quite easy to state the problem. I don't know, it's not so easy to solve, but it's an expectation gap. When people bring me in, whether it's often it's within the strategic or in the financial sort of expertise capacity, and they think you've got a magic wand, and I don't have a magic wand. So with the small businesses, I typically work with sort of founder-led, relatively, typically less than 20 million turnover businesses. We're not talking about vast things here. Um, yeah, sometimes some strategic thinking is really, really helpful and can progress things. But a lot of time, execution is the thing that people are lacking. So, like, no, I'm not going to come in on however many hours or days a month or retainer or whatever else, and suddenly be able to fix that that kind of execution issue. And equally, like, from a financial perspective, I'm not going to come in and magically increase your revenue. so it's making
Yeah.
sure that people kind of understand what you can do and don't come in with kind of unrealistic expectations, because that becomes a very difficult thing to come back from. So I would say, like, scoping what someone's going to get from you, really as carefully and as fully as you can, so that everyone knows what the deliverables are and that that you can deliver them. And then you have a really successful relationship in the making, because something that if and alongside that, if actually you can, my one of my sort of mantras is kind of under promise and over deliver, right? Yeah. If we
Yeah.
can, if we set up a 3 month starter for 10 or whatever else, if at the end of 3 months you feel like you've got more from me than we agreed to for the agreed amount of money, then why wouldn't you be delighted with that? And why wouldn't
Yeah.
you potentially want to keep working with me, which would be fantastic. But B, then, like, when you're talking to other founders, friends, whatever else, and something comes up, be like, hey, why don't you talk to Mike? And I think that that reputational snowball, I'm sure you've heard this before, but like the word of mouth referral is the most powerful thing in the world. And when just occasionally I get a phone call from someone and they say, "Hey, so and so said I should give you a call," and you're like, I know this is going to convert, right? I just know,
yeah,
because I'm working from such a huge head start, and that compared to doing cold outreach, is it's just a much more successful place to sit, isn't it?
Yeah. And it's always that combination, isn't it? I mean, the referral marketing is always, I mean, it's brilliant, as you said. It's like, okay, cool. But it's that balance of having the cold as well, which can be frustrating sometimes, because it doesn't convert as well, obviously, because it's not referral. But it's always nice to know that you've done a good job for someone, that they refer someone over, and cool. Here we go. This is amazing. Well, over the next, say, 2 to 3 years, what's the goal? What would you like to achieve?
That's a great question. Because I don't know that I've got it like spectacularly defined. Like I came out of an investment background, so it's funny because like a lifestyle business was almost a dirty word in that world. Like
Okay.
why are people more ambitious? And now I'm running something here, and it's like, well, it's me. And I don't know if I want it to be more than that. I think so. I've got a big tick in the box now, just having seen a business through a full exit. I think that'd be fantastic. I think it would be, I guess one of my kind of ambitions would be kind of to see a business kind of what the investment world would call kind of cradle to grave. So sort of kind of see them through a round of investment, see them through the growth journey, and then see them through the sale, and sort of sit there in an advisory capacity. So that would be really great. I'd definitely love to grow the coaching side of my business. So that would be something that I really enjoy, the one-to-one conversations with people. I really enjoy listening to people's problems and what they're struggling to, and trying to sort of find ways to guide them to their own solutions. I think. But I think a big part of that ambition for me though is also to go, how can I arrange this? And I've got 3 children who are going to be going through secondary school over the next few years, and making sure that I'm doing that in a way where I'm not having to work 60 hours a week and be traveling around the country and all the rest of it. So how do I balance this in a way that's going to be great for them and for my wife? So it's quite a balanced vision, but it's also not super defined. I'm quite aware.
Yeah. Well, no, I think you have a direction on where you want to go with that, and that will evolve. But at least you got the direction there, which is very, very cool. Well, that's awesome. Well, Mike, for people that are wanting to learn a little bit more about what you do and how you can help them, what is the best way for them to contact you?
There are lots of ways. There's my website, which is withwards.co.uk. So that's withwards as in like a direction, like forwards or backwards. But and the idea behind that is about going on a journey together. Like, which that's kind of like that image that I'm seeking. But also, you can find me on email. You can find me on LinkedIn, and search me up. It'd be great to hear from people. I'd love to explore with people more about what their challenges are and whether or not I can assist them, for sure.
Amazing. Well, I definitely recommend everyone to get in touch with Mike if you feel like he can help you with any of the things that he's already discussed here on the show today. So, Mike, thanks so much for being on the podcast today. I really appreciate it. And just, it was a great conversation, and really appreciate you taking out the time for that. And as a reminder for everyone listening, this show is sponsored by the LinkedIn Reverse Podcast Method, the new way established businesses are creating a reliable acquisition channel of conversations with their ideal prospects that doesn't rely on any of the old, ineffective traditional marketing methods that everybody hates. To find out more, direct message me on LinkedIn and have a chat. That's Jason A. Osborn. The link to that will be in the show notes below. And until the next episode, stay inspired.